Hello and welcome to a special edition of the Game Informer Show. I'm your host, Ben Hansen, joined by best buddy Ben Reeves.
How's it going?
Real good. So a month or so ago, we visited Ubisoft San Francisco, developers of Rocksmith, and the upcoming South Park, The Fractured But Whole. We've had an entire month of coverage going live on GameInformer.com, but we always like to close these things out by opening things up to the community and saying, what questions do you guys have for the developers? What didn't we ask about? And so we got a ton of questions based on that prompt. And so we are going to Skype in Jason Schroeder, who's a senior producer on this game, and Paul Cross, who's the director of design on this game from Ubisoft San Francisco.
That's right.
And we're going to get to the bottom of a bunch of new info about South Park Fractured But Whole.
I feel like we did a really good job of covering it ahead of time. So
that cover story was amazing.
Yeah, if you read the cover story, that's really where you should start. But
that's right.
These, I don't know, I think these always do a good job of kind of like recapping a bunch of stuff. And there's a few good nuggets in here that I'm hoping we'll get some good information.
Yeah, it's always a nice way to send off the big month of coverage. So we hope you guys enjoy the show. Jason and Paul, welcome to the Game Informer Show, guys.
Thanks for having us.
It's a real honor. So we're closing out the month of South Park coverage by having you guys answer a bunch of questions from the community. Something we didn't touch on anywhere else in our coverage, but I think is an interesting little nugget of this whole game, is Paul, you were at Acclaim back when the N64 South Park game was released.
Don't blame me for that, all right? This was in the 90s. Let's get a bit of perspective. But yes, I was. I had the pleasure of seeing those first 3D South Park games. It was mentioned in one of the early meetings on this project, apologetically.
You didn't put whiteout to that part of your resume? Those games were kind of fun. I had a good time with them back in the day.
I think there was a certain point where there were only so many turkeys you could shoot. And South Park Rally was okay, in the kart generation. It wasn't quite as good as Diddy Kong Rally, but oh well. And Chef's Love Shack, you could see what they were trying to do.
Sure. And you were not director of design back then. It's probably important to point out.
I was not. I was answering phones and giving feedback to teams on their games.
Perfect. Well, focusing on Fractured But Whole now. It's been about a month since we visited the studio, maybe a little bit more than that. How are you guys doing? How's the game shipping up? What have you gotten done in that month? Give us a status update, please.
Oh, man. I didn't know it was going to be that kind of meeting.
We haven't been working.
I gotta get the PowerPoint going. Things are good. It's the season's running, so there's a whole different energy about South Park and about the team here. We're watching the episodes as a group every Thursday, and like you kind of mentioned at the top of this, it's like, man, what are member berries going to be? What's happening? Yeah. What's happening to the town? And there's not really much of that that's impacting us, but I think just as fans, it kind of brings a different energy to what we're doing.
Sure. So you have group viewing, so every Thursday morning everyone just holds off and doesn't watch the episode on Wednesday, just watch the Thursday, and then is everyone taking notes, or what is that like?
So we have pizza and South Park Thursdays. Yeah. So for our lunchtimes, that's where we spend them. And then I think last year people were going, oh crap, they've just added new districts. Oh crap, they're changing things up.
Last year you brought the Soda Sopa and the Shitty Town and stuff like that. So that's when we were taking notes a little bit more in season 19. Now with season 20, I think it's a lot of our story's pretty locked, and we know what's coming up for the Fractured But Whole. But I think it's still interesting. It's interesting to see what how kind of I think
individual characters start to behave or react. There are things where we're like, we know that's connected to stuff we're doing, and there are others where we're going, okay, are we going to have to get a line in? Are we going to need to reference that? Is there any little skew? Is there going to be a reaction from a character?
I mean, you have this bigger story lockdown, but how much could you? I mean, are you watching it thinking just item descriptions you can customize? We'll probably put some member berries as collectibles, or even with Kyle's dad, okay, maybe in his bedroom there'll be some reference to Skank Hunter or something.
Yeah, his computer will be trash.
Well, that's a good idea.
Yeah, we should do that. I mean, I think that there's stuff where you kind of hope that they put Gerald back in a box a little bit, because he's in our game and he's not an awful human being. So it's man, I hope they don't kill him off.
But it's not like you guys can just call up Matt and Trey and say, Like, hey, where are you guys going? What's the grand conclusion? Because they don't know, right?
Right. Yeah. There have been those calls, not with them, but with their producers and the folks that we work with more week to week in terms of like asset deliveries and stuff like that. And they're like, hey, so we're thinking about this part of town. And I'm like, why? Like, well, we'll see what Matt says next week. Let's just wait.
Oh, God.
That's gonna like make your stomach just drop out from under you, like.
Hey, good times. Game development's fun. So first question is from a user on our site named Then Tom Was Like, and he's just wondering, do you guys have any input on writing gags for the game, or is all the writing done by Matt and Trey? Where's that dividing line?
It's definitely a mix. Like there's some times where it's like we just need to make sure that we get the serious part across. Like what's the player's motivation, or what are this character's motivation? Where are they trying to get to in town? What's their stake in this moment? And so sometimes we'll write things that are kind of dry to just make sure that the point gets across. And then they'll layer humor on top of that. But at other times, we're like, they don't know every single situation where we need a combat quip or a little conversation that might take place between Super Craig and Mosquito or something like that. Like, it's just little details like that. And so we'll write little funny interactions. And sometimes that stuff just gets read verbatim, and sometimes it comes back with a word tweak here or there. But
sometimes it doesn't come back.
Sometimes it's like, you were way off. I'm insulted that you said that to us.
I think that shift has happened over the course of the project as well. I think they've always been very encouraging of saying, come with ideas, and we can work together to make them great. And I think early in the project, we were coming with a lot of stuff that was being like, not so much. Yeah. But then as that's progressed, our hit rates increased, and now as we're finaling, there are more and more things where we're going, oh, cool. We know how we can do this. We know how that will be funny and fit and feel just as if they had written it themselves straight away. But that's still, as Jason says, just those little moments, those little gags, those little puzzle reactions.
Yeah, I think Jolie Menzel, who's the narrative designer in the game, I believe, I think she said any Sonic or Sailor Moon references in the game, that's probably coming from her.
Definitely. Those are definitely coming. And those are the ones where it's like, I can't cut everything that she writes, but
that's the only way she speaks. So I wanted to follow up on a quick note from one of the video interviews. There's a certain point, Jason, where you said like, oh, there's nobody better to learn narrative structure than than Matt and Trey. Yeah. And I'm curious, just specifically, what lessons have you guys learned about storytelling from working with those guys?
I think sometimes it's like, don't lose the point of like let the joke live. Don't step on it by trying to explain things too much. There's a lot of times where when you're reading script over and over and over and trying to think through things mechanically as well, and it's just trying to make sure. Like I got these different things that I sort of prioritize with the group. Just like we want to keep it interactive, make the player feel like they're a kid in South Park all the time. And there are times where you can lose that, and they're just really great, directors on the other end of that, always going like, no, don't sweat whether or not mechanically you've trained that particular power effectively before you're asking people to do it. Just make it funny and it's going to be okay. And sort of just like, shh, don't let all of your old game design experience get in the way of a joke.
One of the great examples, I use a stick example to not spoil anything for us. Think about like some of the mini games they had. So like the Simon game.
Yeah.
Where clearly it's a joke. You cannot do it successfully. But as a game designer, your first thought is, hey, we could make the best Simon game ever, and we could have a high score table, and it could be repeatable. And you start to try and just overcomplicate this. And we had these conversations, and it's like, no, it's a joke.
Right.
You got to press the buttons at the right time, and it's funny. And when you can see the whole thing, like just sitting there on the table, you don't feel the funny anymore. But when you're seeing it for the first time as a player, actually experiencing it, it's brilliant. And they're really good at seeing that and being able to predict it ahead of time.
So keeping it relatively simple looking or even crappy, I think is the way you put some of those mini games before. Like they can't be too polished. They're going to be functioning. Does that apply even to like UI in the game? Do you want to make the UI look like that South Park crudity style?
There's always a balance to it. You want it to look a little bit like the kids had a hand in it. Like it's possible that maybe they contracted with some app developers somewhere or took a computer class and did it. But then there's a point at which it's like, well, that's just bad design.
It just doesn't look right.
It shouldn't be bad design. So yeah, there's definitely a balance.
So it's kind of like going back to those old Acclaim games.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Reeves.
Yeah. No, it's like going back to those old Acclaim games is what you're saying, like the N64 games.
That's the UI level. That's the benchmark you have to hit.
Yeah, that's all.
You just take the South Park font and put it into Microsoft front page.
Pretty much. We build the UI in PowerPoint and just go from there. It's the same. It's like if you're trying to tell a joke about the way it's been built, you have to go the whole way. And so for the UI, it's actually something we bounced on a lot for a long time. Where is that right balance? Because if you start to say, oh, the kids have made it, but it's an app, okay, you've already made a massive leap in what's viable and what's just going to look crap for the end user.
Yeah, I think mostly for players and us, I think mostly you want it to be effective, you want it to be snappy, you want it to be fun. You want to effectively be able to customize your character, know which mission you're on, know what's in your current inventory, and if we're constantly distracting you from like usability with jokes, you're not going to appreciate it after the first 30 minutes.
Yeah. Another thing we didn't have a chance to talk about on the trip that I wanted to follow up with you guys real quick. One of the more interesting points of being on the cover story trip for South Park Stick of Truth back in the day with Obsidian is they were talking about, and this is back in 2011, how important that video game's First Amendment case in the Supreme Court was for that game because of that and video games being treated with freedom of speech the same as any other medium, they were allowed to directly reference Facebook and directly reference other things. So I'm curious how many discussions you guys have about the First Amendment in terms of this game, because like Netflix is a huge plot point in this game. You guys referenced Flash and Quicksilver. What are those discussions like?
It's satirical, and that's another thing where it's like they have the experience, they know what they're doing with that. And so basically when someone in my team writes a moment and they're like, we should make put a reference to a non-Ubisoft product in the game, I'm like, no, it's like that. We're not masters of satire. Like if they write it, then I feel pretty comfortable that they know the line that they can walk. And every once in a while, I'll ping a message over to their producer and be like, hey, P.F. Chang's versus Shitty Walk, which one are we going with here? And it's like, let's go with Shitty Walk. Like, we don't need to keep picking on that poor Chinese chain. But it's just, they know when they think, like, is it worth it? Do they think it's funny? Like, will a South Park brand tell the joke just as well? And I don't know. I let them take care of it.
But it's on the same level as the TV show, whatever the TV show can get away with, games can get away with?
It's really gotten to that point. I think that there's a lot of stuff that what did Stick get away with, and we can kind of point toward the same thing. And
we still have legal departments and check the lines and make sure. Hey, can this be viable? Is this person going to sue, or are they going to be like, hey, that's really cool, I'm in the show?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, it's South Park knows what they can do. Ubisoft, we have real products. We have Watch Dogs 2 will be in San Francisco with buildings and streets and businesses, and both our company and theirs knows kind of how to walk that line. So.
Yeah. Todd Howard didn't sue after Stick of Truth, so
come on.
You guys can get away with anything, I think.
You're free. You passed that Todd Howard test.
I know that the episode is where that they played with Microsoft and Sony actually doing the console war. Yeah. And you notice that didn't make it into a console product. Instead, that goes into an episode.
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah.
So there's a line.
Okay.
We'll have to walk those lines.
Yeah, some of that Sony stuff was a little bit edgy. Yeah.
Well, we solicited a bunch of questions from our readers, and we want to just pass those on to you. Going to start with a bunch of story questions. Have one from somebody called No Fate, and his question is: do I need to play Stick of Truth first, or can I just jump straight into the Fractured But Whole?
You can jump straight in. The basic thing that you kind of know when you start is that you are at the height of your power at the end of Stick of Truth, and you start the game there as King Douchebag.
Spoiler.
Yeah, well, that's in the exact first minute of the game, so hopefully people don't feel like they missed out on too much. But and I think Cartman at the beginning will do a little bit of a nice recap to get you as much information as you need to get.
Do you still get Stick of Truth when you pre-purchase?
Yes, you do.
So there's no real excuse. If you're on Fractured, you might as well get it and play Stick first.
Might as well get it
anyway,
both.
because it's great and it's fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, Stick's a good
And
game.
you've got a few months to wait.
There you go. Play it while
Thank
you
you
wait.
so much for giving us that time to wait. We were really asking for it, you guys.
That's it. We were looking at the metrics and said not enough people have finished that yet. Give them a little bit longer to be able to finish it. And then...
Maybe it's not too late to make us wait longer.
Come on.
So another question from I Do Stuff. They ask, is there anything that was cut from the Stick of Truth that made it into this game?
A lot of things appear on lists, and then we hear, oh, we were going to do that in Stick, and then it never made it in. And then quite a lot of those things aren't making it into Fractured either, because there was a reason why they were cut. So they start off as like, oh, the idea sort of sounded cool, and then it doesn't really go anywhere again, and then doesn't make it in.
There's some stuff, but I guess you would never know. That's one of those things where if I tell you that was originally in Stick, it would have been in a very different way. So some of the characters or some of the places that you'll go did have some existence in Stick of Truth, and now they've made it to Fractured, but it's not as if, we just repurposed that whole idea. It's just that, yeah, that's a location in South Park, and we didn't use it the first time. We could totally use it this time, but it's different.
Yeah, it's amazing that Matt and Trey would hang on to those ideas for so long, though, and still think that there's something so good gameplay-wise from those ideas to keep them around for so long.
Sometimes I don't know if it's them or us going, hey, you know what would be cool? And then them going, yeah, we were looking at that for Stick.
Yeah, like if you think of any favorite moments from episodes and stuff like that, and you go, you should put that in the game. Yeah, I mean, I think that they did a lot of those ideas came up for the first one, and then we're like, hey, you know what? That'd be really cool if you did that. And they're like, yeah.
Member berries.
Remember when you did that in that episode? Yeah.
That's funny.
So, but I think it's all very Fractured flavored now. Like a lot of our content needs to work around setting up battlefields, and like our new puzzle mechanics and the things you can do with your buddies is different. So, like I say, it wouldn't have been the same content.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. So we have a question from Scud, the disposable commentator, who it's not even really a question, I guess, more of a statement, but I've heard rumors that the player can be female now, which isn't really a rumor because we talked about it in our cover story, but
the cover story was 100% rumor.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys want to comment on that at all.
Fact.
You think
it's true. Yeah, you can do it. I think the way people are going to kind of reveal that and interact with it will be best done by them.
Okay. You
Fair
think
enough.
it's interesting? Do you think just in the years since Stick came out that now the video game industry just fully expects that even more to have a playable female option?
I mean, I think it's a good thing to expect. Like they have boys and girls in the show. It's complicated, of course, because of the relationship that the boys have with girls.
Especially this season.
It's a lot to consider.
I didn't think about that. Yeah, this season it's especially pronounced and visual, the difference between boys and girls. So
yeah. What's he say?
I don't know.
Humans on Mars.
Cool. Well, Kenny has a question. And Kenny's question is, will Kenny be a main character in this one?
So this is one of those funny things about the game and about the boys all being in their superhero personas. So Kenny is Mysterion. And if you don't know your South Park superhero lore, you might not recognize him because he talks and he does this part of his face is covered instead of this part of his face.
So is there much where you
Kenny's definitely in. He's Mysterion.
Do you see the boys much outside of costume in the game?
There's a few moments, I'll tell you, but they really do their adventuring as superheroes.
Great. Nathan has a question. Will we be able to choose which side we want to beat, like on Stick, or is it more of rigid in Butthole?
I think he's asking like factions. Like there's like the which side you wanted to choose in Stick of Truth. And this one, there's very clearly a civil war going on. Is that going to be part of the game? Is choosing which side you want to fall in line with?
I think you should play it out. I think that the biggest thing is that you're going to start as a coon friend. And yes, there is a civil war. And
you will experience that civil war from the new kid's point of view.
Yes, indeed.
Perfect.
Fair enough. Question from Scarce. How long is the main story going to be?
How long do you want to live as a kid in South Park?
100 hours.
Yes, well then it's great. Enjoy hanging out at Cartman's house and just watching his mom.
It's quite a bit bigger than Stick. It's interesting. I think when we last met, you asked earlier on, how's it been going over the last few months or months since we met? Now we can actually answer that question much more specifically, at least amongst ourselves. We now have all the missions. We're able to play through them. We're able to go all the way to the end of the game. We're able to experience it. And we already know without wandering around, it's bigger than Stick.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's part of what we were promising. Mm-hmm. If you then start to actually move between places and explore houses and do the puzzles and level up your character and get stronger and play it like a real player, it's considerably bigger.
But you also said in a video interview that you like comedic games to be shorter, that you don't want this to stretch on for too long.
Don't want it to drag. I think it's just one of those things where right now, like, the adventure sort of takes you all over town, and once you're in these crawls is what we call them, the dungeons, it's sort of like you're pulled along through the story. I don't think we definitely aren't dragging, like he said. Like right now, it's longer, and you're really being pulled along, and it's feeling great. But like you say, how long do you really want to hang out? Like you can spend time exploring people's houses and kind of figuring out what's hidden within their cupboards and stuff like that, and that can start to stretch it for sure.
So there we go, Scarce. It's 24 hours, I think, is the answer. So,
yeah. Great. Or it could take you 100 hours.
That's adding all those variables together. Yeah, it's 24 plus
one day of your life in South Park.
Well, I am passing away as a question that I think is interesting, and they're asking, will we see Jesus versus Santa?
Going old school.
Not necessarily versus.
Yeah.
Okay. Not versus. But I mean, we already saw Jesus in the last game.
Yeah, he's a summon.
Yeah, so.
I mean, I think, those are characters. They exist. I'm not going to answer that.
All right. Ripe with potential, some would say. All right.
Fair enough. We want to jump into a few gameplay questions while we're at it, too. One from John. He asks, will Fractured Butthole still include a social media / friending system like in the Stick?
Yes.
And this time it's Instagram.
Yeah, it seems like it's kind of Instagram, right?
It's Instagram, yeah. So the Coon has taken sort of the Batman approach with things and just put his emblem on things that exist. So he has Instagram, but it's Coonstagram. And you're going to get, in the popularity of the franchise is sort of based off of followers on Instagram.
So is it like Instagram where people are going to be taking pictures and sending them to you?
It's better than that.
Yeah.
It's just like, I'm trying to remember what we've already said and what we can say at this stage.
I mean, it's the difference there. Yeah, is that people need to be able to have some photo time.
Right.
Sure.
Huh. Yeah, I don't think we talked about too much in the cover story, but like when you press the main menu, you pull up your phone and all the menu options are kind of based on different apps. So one's Instagram, and that's your friend connection. I just thought that was kind of a cool, clever way to do a menu system.
Yeah.
Thanks. Cool.
I just want to compliment you guys.
I'm assuming they're going to be watching anyway. So.
Sure. So Josh asks, are you bringing back elements like sticky, fire, bleed, etc. for the combat system?
Oh, for like the status effects.
Yep.
Yeah, like during combat.
Yeah,
so all those returning?
One of one of the ones that I feel like is pretty unique to this franchise is Grossed Out, and that was one that I felt like we couldn't do without. So even Grossed Out's coming back.
Sure. Yeah. Are there any new ones?
Grossed Out and things like that. But absolutely, and trying to make sure the characters react is always part of the fun there. Seeing someone throw up in the middle of a fight is funny.
Yeah.
Are you able to just kind of like double up with those, or like with your laser vision, can you like add an ice effect to it or something like that?
So you can stack up status effects, but I think there's a little bit of cheesing that kind of happened with the like, okay, cool, so stack 5 bleeds and then you win. So we're there's a little bit of tuning away from just being able to stack dots in order to win combats. But at least there is balancing those status effects and what do those do in a game where turn order and stuff like that matters, and sort of like the time of combat starts to matter. So
yeah, how do you really make sure that we're not over-eating the pudding and just making it so complex that it becomes just impossible to fathom? Because the fun is being able to move your guys around and do a cool power. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the core of it. If you do a really cool power and then the guy's set on fire, isn't that cooler? But if you can't figure it out, if you can't understand it, then it stops being cool and just becomes a complex mess. That's a huge focus for us, and just trying to make sure that simplicity rules and we can all have fun with it.
Sure. Yeah. Well, Low Pursuit asks, will summons be returning? And if so, will you have to recruit them again after every use? What about in boss fights?
You didn't like those cutscenes last time? We are recruited, and you can use us in these situations, except for boss fights. Hey, summons exist, and the exact method by which you get them, I think, will be more fun for you to experience.
Okay, but it's fair to say you're kind of changing that system a little bit.
A little bit.
Okay.
Cool.
Sorry to be vague.
No, that's fine. So Jay Bryant is wondering, how can you guys possibly fit in as many great references as there were in Stick? He feels like they basically used every possible reference from the show, especially like in the items you can pick up. So how do you guys fill in the gap anymore?
I mean, that's definitely a challenge, like not just wanting to be like, hey, remember how cool it was that you could pick up that stuff? Well, it's all in the same houses. It's like you put it all back. So they
just replaced it all.
Changed the way the looting feels a little bit, changed it so like, one of the things about the last game was that you're picking up all this stuff, and then your option was basically to sell it. So we wanted to take a lot of that stuff and turn it into components to sort of bring it forward into crafting.
So it's less, in these instances, it's less about the joke and actually more about the RPG. So that was one of the big promises, was going to be make a real RPG, as it's been phrased by Cartman. So we've been spending a lot of time trying to look at where are those systems that are then going to complement the fact that you're actually playing and exploring to get stronger versus just trying to batter through a long episode. So that trying to find that balance, trying to find those opportunities where, they did all the jokes, they did all the obvious member-berry jokes. So then we're going, okay, we're going to have looting. So how do we now make it meaningful to the player in a different fashion?
Yeah, beyond just the Gigglette and Antonio Banderas loved off.
Well, there are still some funny loots.
Sure, of course.
Yeah. Deplorable Doran is curious if you guys are going to be massive douchebags and censor the European version like you did last time. Granted, last time there were Nazis all over the place, so what's censorship look like this time around for other countries?
So, deplorable. This. I thought we were friends. And call us douchebags at the beginning of your question.
King douchebags, to be fair.
Game or something? Well, so we work with all the different ratings boards. It's not strictly us that censor the game. It's a conversation. So when you're making a video game, every game goes through this. We go through a process of age rating lock, which means we have all the content in, and then we send it around to the different classification boards, and they take a look at it, and some of them say, "Whoa, you're not doing that around our house."
Right.
And then we have a conversation about it. So last time round, Nazis don't go over well in certain territories. So there were some edits that had to be made. Certain other body parts don't go over well in other countries. This time around, we'll go through it again and do our best to get the uncensored version to the world, but it's not as simple as that.
Totally. Is there anything as edgy as an aborted Nazi fetus in this one, or you feel like that really peaked with Stick of Truth?
We always gotta find a way to one up that stuff.
Jesus Christ! All right, we'll look forward to the game. Let's see. Drossum MD says, in Stick of Truth, the achievements were the best part of any game ever, but it required a wiki and multiple playthroughs if you missed one small thing early on. So what can we expect in terms of achievements this time around? Also,
being able to get them all in one playthrough.
All right.
You check which things are at the beginning.
There we go.
Yes.
And then
some jokes. Yeah, I mean, you gotta, to live up to what Stick did. I think there were some very clever achievements and try to make people interact in maybe a different way. But yeah, we'll try to not be douchebags about it.
Yeah, I mean, the specific example is Chim Pokemon, because we know that you could miss one in a place you can't get back to.
Yeah.
Right.
So we've been really mindful to not do that, whilst also trying to make sure there's plenty of stuff that you may miss the first time through. Or you're going to see something that's like, oh, I can't get there, I don't have that power yet. I want to go and find it, I want to go back there later.
Sure.
Which again, it's back to the RPG, explore the world, make it meaningful and pleasurable.
So just to clarify, you guys aren't confirming Chim Pokemon for this game. That was just an example of what
we have
happened last
collectibles.
We have collectibles.
Yeah.
Right.
And then the same person's also wondering if you guys have any New Game Plus ideas.
We have ideas.
All right, there we go. Nudo says, is it possible that more characters could be added to the game via DLC, either as part of a new campaign or as a new buddy?
I think that, yes, programming makes things like that possible.
Yes.
I think that we're selling a season pass. The way that's going to expand, I think, is going to give you some adventures and some ways to interact. I don't want to overpromise.
Okay, sure.
It's gonna be great.
All right, Dat Boy Peepo says, if this is successful, does the team want to make another South Park game? Seems like if there's already a fantasy game, they're doing superheroes now, there'd be room for a sci-fi themed one to round out a trilogy.
Well, now I can't do that.
Damn it, Dat Boy Peepo!
Why?
Idea.
I think you should always ask a dev team if they want to make another one after they've finished the one,
Right.
and
I want to make another one.
let the dust settle a little bit.
Well, Matt and Trey said they didn't want to make another one, and now they're making one. So
All right, so we need to make them not want to make.
yeah, there you go.
That's right. It is. I know we talked a lot about it on the cover store trip, but I'm still just fascinated by the idea of building out your studio, and it seems like you guys are bracing for a long haul relationship with Matt and Trey. But Matt and Trey seem very whim based, and so the idea of building out an entire studio dependent on, I hope they feel like making one of these, is just a bizarre combo.
Well, this time around, like we talked about earlier, was a massive learning experience for us. They're continuing, their whole group, their whole studio is also learning. So the hope is that, of course, all those learnings aren't just one and done, that you can carry them on to the future, that we'll be able to understand better about being funny in a game and being able to actually come to them and say, we think this would be cool, and ignite that spark to be able to go and say, yeah, you know what, we want to go and make this and move together, as opposed to going well, we're going to sit here and do nothing until they come with a script, which is where that, when we say win-based, where that really will come from. If we say, right, Trey, we need another script by August, you're probably going to say, yeah, no, I'm busy. I'm doing other things. Right. So, after the amazing success and critical acclaim of this product, those conversations will also get easier. Right, Jason?
Of course. But I think that the other thing is just Ubisoft, it's you look at the studios and the talent around the world, they don't tend to just hire up for this is going to be an idea and then we'll stop. It's it's always an investment in talent, because once you have talented people that know Snowdrop and know how to work together, there's a tremendous amount of potential just in having studios and groups of people that can get shit done. So
yeah, for sure.
I think that's the other thing, is it doesn't feel all that risky, because there's a great product that if we do another one, we know we'll be able to do more of those, but we also have an awesome team in a good location. So
yeah,
we'll be able to make something.
Worst case scenario, you guys can just make a 2D expansion to the Division, I think.
Yeah,
I think that's what most people have been crying out for.
There you go.
Perfect.
Division meets Rocksmith is what I'm banking on.
So Penultimate Spaz with the final question here. He simply wants to know, is the game going to be good?
Yes.
All right, cool. There we go. Hope you're happy
No,
with that.
it's going to be great.
Oh, I thought we were just going to be able to get away with good. Sorry.
That's what the extra time is for.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to answer all these questions from the community and for letting us invade your studio for a couple days. We really, really appreciate it. We are endlessly fascinated by this game, if you didn't get that idea by asking 6,000 questions.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're really looking forward to playing the game, obviously. So, game looks great, guys. Keep up the good work.
Thank you very much.
Good luck on the final run to the finish.
Thanks. Cool. See you next year, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Hope so. All right. Thank you so much for watching or listening to this episode of the Game Informer Show. Be sure to tune in Thursday, and we'll have another new episode waiting for you. Bye, everybody.
En junker red ved juletid. Ching chang ching nu til dig. Omkring ham dannede sneen hvid. Ching chang ching nu til dig. Han stred sig frem i regn og blæst med et, der sejnede hans hest. Ching chang lu, ching chang lu, ching chang ching.